the ultimate what we're headed for is that everybody, like we said, can sorry, a bit of difficulty here.
No, it's all right.
Yes, everybody should be able to do the business, bring in the product. Ultimately, I hear people want to have an argument about whether it's full deregulation or partial deregulation. But at the end of the day, the basic objective is what was achieved in diesel with AGO, which is that the government will have less control over the business, and individuals will be free to compete, so that Nigerians will have the advantage of that competition.
Well, the thing about this is that the way it is in diesel, we understand that no agency is fixing the price for diesel. So why is the price for petrol being capped?
Well, the reason is that an initial the echo is quite a lot, so I really in the case of we're starting from a point where because of the sensitivity of PMS, you want to be sure that at the initial stage there's some guidelines in terms of how you do your pricing. Ultimately, obviously, we will let the market dynamics take place.
We still want to go back to the diesel example. We're looking at a capping of 145 naira. For some marketers, they still insist that this is not what they call deregulation.
I'd like to make my points if I'm not having an echo in my voice, but the echo is too much, so I'm hardly hearing you, and I can't even respond to the questions.
Okay, let's make it this way. If after the question, when you want to respond, can you take off the earpiece for a moment? If that will help.
Okay, so ask the question, then I'll take off the earpiece.
Yes, I think that will help. So go ahead. We were asking about, tell us the difference between what you did with diesel and what the government has just done with the price of petrol.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
we can.
Perfect. Now with diesel, if you look at the consumption of diesel, it's nothing compared to PMS. The sensitivity is also nothing compared to the sensitivity with PMS. What we've done is an upper cap. We have not told anybody what price to sell. We expect that efficiencies will force people to determine their prices. We had a price band of 135 to 145, but the reality is that those are guideline prices. It's going to depend on how much you find your efforts for, how efficient you are, how invested you are through the whole entire chain of the business, because if you're invested in the tankage, in the importation, in the distribution, in the logistics, you have greater efficiency, and those will impact your prices. We sat down after very detailed conversations with those who play in this sector to look at the templates that PPRA usually rolls out. When PPRA advised me of those templates, you could see that for every item that PPRA had used guidance for, those issues were covered. Ultimately, what you will do as the market stabilizes, because bear in mind, NNPC, like you said, is still a partial player and will still remain a partial player in this. But these are all transition periods. At the end of the day, there's also a social responsibility to ensure that product, which is not just like diesel, which has a selective consumption, but that petrol is available everywhere. So we'll help transit that period. But you'll see that as the market dynamics take hold, and it's going to be pretty fast because there are lots of Nigerians who are very active, very bullish, very talented in doing this. They just have been prevented by government intrusions. As they get better and it get to points where we find that the market has stabilized in terms of supply, we'll begin to pull back a bit in terms of determinants of pricing.
Well, part of the concerns that Nigerians had at the time before, last time they spoke about this deregulation or removing fuel subsidy, which they still have now, is how they're going to bear this. You did say in your earlier announcement that this is a tough decision, but many also look to, we've had different agencies. We had the DPR, the PPPRA, the Petroleum Equalization Fund, and in spite of those, despite the fact that you did announce that it was going to be 87 naira per litre, yet we were seeing this product being bought for over 100 naira. What is the guarantee that now that it's being said that it will sell for a ceiling of 145 naira, people will not sell it for 200 naira per litre? Well, if you heard that, Dr. Patrick, you could respond if you heard it.
If I heard you right, I think I lost the later part of your question. You were saying that there was a time when the prices were 86, 50, people were sometimes selling for 100 naira, so there wasn't full enforcement. So what is the guarantee that at 145 there will be full enforcement? Is that the question? Well, if that's the question, because I really can't hear your response. The reality was that the difference in prices you saw was just exactly what we're trying to address. So lots of arbitrages, because at the end of the day, NNPC provided all these products largely subsidized, and then people took advantage of it, went out and made their own profit margins. Now, these individuals are going to start bringing in their own products. And even when NNPC sells his own product, it will sell his own product at those sort of prices. So that there wouldn't be opportunity for these short-term arbitrages unless those benefits and pricing come from your own skill set and experience and efficiency. What has happened really is that we've provided an opportunity in the country for people to take advantage of government liberalization policies and subsidies and make huge and vast sums of money. And those have not necessarily percolated to the common man on the streets. So you have the loss factor that government bears, you have the inefficiencies that come with the restrictions, with the inability of government to cover this full scene. But people are making vast sums of money and the environment is challenged. And the reality is that if you left the environment free for people to perform, for people to practice their trade, you'll be amazed at what will happen with pricing. I will almost take a bet with you that in 6 months' time, you review these prices, you'll be amazed at what will happen to your 145 naira price. Because it's been going downwards.
The questions that some of the Nigerians would have is, how much would the PMS from the nation's own refineries, what would be the difference between that and what's being imported? And then at what price range would the NNPC stations and affiliates be selling?
You guys are making this very difficult.
Okay, Dr. Katia, let me ask that question again. How much would the NNPC be selling PMS to the public? Would there be a difference between what's sold from the refineries and what's being imported into the country?
First, in terms of what NNPC will sell for, if that's the question you're asking for,
yes.
We will compete with everybody else, 135 to 145 band. What I expect is that within the cities, we will try to stay as close to what our competition will be doing as possible, largely because we do not want to have massive emergence of queues in NNPC filling stations, which happened when you had the 86 versus 86.50 figure, which was just a 50 cover differential. You're astonished how much time people will spend just because of that 50 cover, understandably. So within the cities, we probably won't have much of a difference, and you find between the marketers, you probably have ranges of 1 naira, 2 naira differentiations. But as we go into the hinterlands, NNPC stations will be hoping to head towards more of 135 naira than the 145 naira band. Now, in terms of what the refineries will sell for, the refineries will get finally competitive. One of the reasons why refineries have not worked in this country is because petroleum largely is subsidized. Nobody wants to invest in refinery because at the end of the day, you put in all the capital investment, but the government tells you what you're going to sell the product for. And most times it doesn't take into consideration the market fundamentals. So the little that we produce today, and for the first time, like I said, 3 of our refineries are working, albeit at very low capacity output levels. We would like to see that. We'd like to see that obviously upgraded, and we're working on that. But for the little that we produce, which currently is less than 10 million liters a day, we will sell at competitive prices for the first time. And those products will be bought by anybody else, NNPC, the major marketers, the minor marketers, everybody.
Let's speak on one of the reasons you highlighted while you were making the announcement. You spoke about, even in the press releases, the access to forex. But we do know also that the sector had priority allocation of forex. Whatever happened to that?
No, we've since stopped that because in reality, let's go back to the fundamentals. We've moved from a position where the government earned $110, $117 a barrel to an average of about $40 a barrel. So there's almost a 70% drop in earnings on foreign exchange. That's one. 2, today, with the problems you have with both pipelines and militancy and all sorts, we're losing about 500 to 600,000 barrels a day. As a matter of fact, as of this morning, we're down from 2.2 to about 1.4. So both in terms of volume and in terms of value, we're far away from where we were before. There's largely, very substantially, massively diminished income. And so government could not therefore said as a priority they're going to give the downstream sector foreign exchange to continue to import product for consumption. That's practical reality. You don't give what you don't have. And I want Nigerians to understand that we feel the pain, and we've tried to avoid it since I came in October. We've done everything we can. We first went on to the issue of the subsidies that we inherited, which by the way were based on 50 to 55 million liters consumption. And we said, look, these numbers look bloated. So we did an experiment and came back to a conclusion that this country doesn't consume more than 45 million liters a day. And that was the first attempt at subsidy. And then we came to the second point and said, look, we're not even going to have subsidy again. We're going to exit it because there was just so much fraud involved in it. So we got out. And from January to March, if you look at our books, there were no subsidies. The price modulation helped us to achieve that. But of course, in April, once the bleeding started, price of oil went forward. We couldn't find the foreign exchange that we needed. The subsidy came right back. Luckily, for the first time, because of extremely good management of the first 3 months of no subsidy, we had some over-recovery, and we were able to cover the subsidy in April. And so that helped. But as you continue, if you do not take the steps that we've taken, massive subsidies will continue. So the reality is, the foreign exchange we're looking for is not even there. It's not an issue of somebody not giving us foreign exchange. Is that the capacity of the country to find and hold and have available foreign exchange has substantially diminished. And a lot of work is ongoing to try and see how we can recover that, whether it's recovering our pipelines, whether it is finding solates and peas so that we can continue to produce, whether it's exiting cash call, which we are working on very seriously. We're doing a whole lot of work in trying to bundle up foreign exchange. But now we don't have it. And so you don't give what you don't have. And so left to that option, what were we supposed to do? We've struggled. Queues continue to go and they're back. And it will continue to happen unless we address the issues. As a motive, as it is, and we do share the sympathies and pain, But as a responsible government, we've got to take decisions to try and solve problems. So that's the reality. And we've come to see, as you look at other products, that if you free up Nigerians to find sources of funds, they will find those secondary funds, they will import the products, the burden on NNPC will reduce, and the country will have peace, and subsidies will go away permanently. And the extra earnings that NNPC will make through that facility will pour into refineries and trying to repair the infrastructures that are completely decayed in the system.
You know, I think it's really amazing. For the first time, we're getting to hear a categorical word from the NNPC saying that subsidy was truly taken off, or deregulation was, thrown at us before it was reintroduced. But if you look at it now, people are asking about looking at the ripple effect, the inflationary, move that this would definitely cause. So, are there palliatives for the short, medium, and even maybe long term in all of this for Nigerians? If you say you feel the pains of Nigerians.
Question again.
We're asking about the palliatives in place for Nigerians, so something to cushion the effect of this sudden removal.
First, let me say that we had this debate about palliatives, and I think the thing we do wrong sometimes is that when we initiate these policies, because we're trying so hard to sell what ordinarily would have been right, we begin to throw palliatives that most times governments don't even deliver on. And so much as what I've advised on this is, first of all, how did we come to the price of 145? It's a simple conversion of using foreign exchange at 285. That 285 is from nowhere. It's basically the secondary source that people buy products from, buy FX from, versus the 320, which is black market. If you convert it and throw it in, you get about 141, 142, or 143. And so there isn't much of palliative elements left there for you to use. It's simply go out, find your product, your cost is covered, there's an opportunity, if you're efficient to make money, come and deliver. For NNPC, there obviously will be some earnings over and above, because NNPC could have sold less than this. Now, those monies will be available. Again, the government will decide whether they want to put it in infrastructure. I think the first call will be infrastructure. Your refineries are not working, your depots are not working, your pipelines are a challenge. But government has provided palliatives in the budget. There are lots of items in the 2016 budget that address palliatives, irrespective of a linkage to the petrol pricing. In other words, it is not the lifting of petroleum pricing that should be the basis in which government provides a palliative. Government has a responsibility to provide social palliatives in an ordinary cost of running the day-to-day administration of a government. And they're doing that. And if you look at 2016 budget, there are loads and loads of such palliatives. Now, this is still early days. So as we begin to look at whatever the differential earnings is for NNPC in terms of where they put it, infrastructure and the rest, versus payment to government. Now, let me also make one point here. Lots of state governments have been unable to pay salaries. In fact, the average state government is earning about 3 to 4 months of salaries because as income drops at the federal level, it impacts on state reception at FAC. If you look at even for the 8 months that we've been there, and it was worse before we came in, on the average for every month, we started with probably a 30% differential in the FAC allocations that came from us in terms of our earnings. In other words, if a state was supposed to, or if FAC was supposed to earn 100 billion, we probably ended up paying only 70 for very many reasons: losses, subsidy, pipeline issues, trade losses, because all those had to be passed back. Over time, in the last 2 months, we've gotten it to about a 96% performance level, so we'll become much better at it. What this will do, for example, is that at least for the 5,000 barrels allocation, which we use for refine, you will have 100% payment to FAC, so that governors can get what is due them, at least in terms of that portion of the budget. So again, when we talk palliatives, the first palliative I think that is essential is that governors get their money in full so they can pay salaries. That's point one. Then two, obviously, is that a company like NNPC who wants to invest is going to get very competitive, and you see that NNPC probably will progressively get driven out of some chains of the business if they refuse to become as efficient as they should be, because it's open competition. Today, for example, you take diesel. What is NNPC's foreplay in diesel? Barely less than 10%. it's been taken over by the entire private market, and it's only when our refineries work that we do AGO business. That's likely also due to the fact that we're putting so much energy in making sure PMS is available in the country. As we open up this, so this same stiff competition will come, and the individuals who get better at it in supplying products at cheaper rates will get the field of the day, and that is the whole essence of competition. So unless our infrastructures work, most of our infrastructures right now don't work. You saw us advertise the depots and the pipelines and refinery proposals of investment into those entities. Most of them don't work. It is taking a huge amount of work over the last 4 or 5 months to get our 3 refineries to produce for the first time collectively at the same time. But even that production is less than 50% capacity. You still need the capacity upgrade. So there's so much work to be done. There's so much money required, money that is not available. Some of this will free up that money for us to do some of that work. Some of it will get some loans to support it. But then at the end of the day, we'll then be able to determine what is really left for the palliatives. So I'd rather look at palliatives from a federal budget point of view, rather than trying to help sell this,
Dr. David, what will happen to the crude oil that NNPC usually uses for its refining, and then the swap deals? What will become of them?
First, in terms of the 445,000 barrels that are allocated to us, today some elements of that I would think about cumulatively to count about 14 cargoes, and about 4 or 5 of those cargoes go to refineries which are not producing. In the past, when refineries weren't producing, you sold that and put money into federation account. Today it's going to refineries. We would like to see a concerted effort at keeping the refineries working, not because they're the most efficient yet, and not because a typical businessman would, quite frankly, put crude into the refineries where they are today, but because they're very helpful in terms of strategic reserve and in terms of distribution. Kaduna can distribute through the north, Warri can distribute through the east, Port Harcourt can distribute through the east, and Warri can distribute heading towards the west, rather than the massive 1,500 trucks of movement that you see every day. So you take away 5, you have about 9. From inherited obligations, about 2 of those cargoes are committed to paying past obligations that were not met before we came. So you're left with the rest, which was thrown into what we call the DSDP, Direct Sale Direct Purchase Program. Now, in the interim, what will happen is that Direct Sale Direct Purchase Program will bring in more cargo than the typical NNPC, roughly about 200 to 300 stations, affiliates and direct will require. The rest of that will be sold back into the system to ensure fluidity so you get extra earnings from those sold typically at the current market rates. Those are some of the bundles of money you're going to see to be able to get into investments. So that's going to continue, because you had a 1-year program. Remember, you can't stop it in the middle. There's a 1-year contractual program, so that program will continue. But what that guarantees you, because people have asked me, what's your guarantee that this market has will bring products? Well, we've taken guarantees on those. We'll ensure that our DSDP program will continue to provide product. I think our calculation, for example, we're doing about 25 to 26 cargoes out of the monthly requirement in terms of fuel consumption, imported fuel consumption of about 33 to 34 cargoes. So we'll say about 70% of that will still continue to come. However, probably about 20 or 30% of that portion will be required by NNPC in its own actual filling stations, and the rest will sold out into the market, so that those Nigerians who can't even find foreign exchange can buy on a Naira bulk basis and begin to distribute. So that's what's going to happen with that. Now, at the completion of the DSDP program in 1 year, we'll see how the market has performed. Frankly, I will expect that by the end of, by sometime March of next year, when that program ends, the first year of DSDP, that the private sector would have risen so much to the challenge that like they did in AGO, like they're doing in kerosene now, that there will be no need for me to do another DSDP or what you call quote-unquote swap program, as the case may be. But that crude can actually be put either in the refinery if our capacity has gotten better, or sent back as pure crude sales and money sent back to FAC. Because at the end of the day, the issue is how do you capture the value chain for the federal government. Now, in terms of, I think you asked the second question, sorry, I lose that, if you could remind me.
I think what we will do is, if you wouldn't mind, because I reckon there's a lot more explanation that you like to give on this, and many Nigerians also want to hear you more. So if we could reschedule so that you could return and give a lot more explanation about this current new price regime, that's if that's okay by you.
No, absolutely. Any opportunity to talk to Nigerians about this, and it's unfortunate that the technical system is not working as well as it should. And perhaps we'll do this in Lagos, when one can be more live on the studio. But let me end by saying that, and appealing to Nigerians to please, for the first time, realize that we are doing our very best. I have, together with everybody who is in this government, worked night and day looking for solutions. This hasn't been one of those governments that you came in and earnings were so superfluous, huge earnings, and things were working. We've come in literally to problems. We came in with refineries not working, pipelines not working, subsidies unpaid, fuel scarcity all over the place. We've been working day to day, and I think that as Nigerians see me struggling from one refinery to one depot or the other, they will see quite frankly, I hope that they will see the honesty that one approaches this job with. It's for the first time, is try and get the job done. Try and address the needs of Nigerians. Don't lie to them. Don't pretend. Don't embellish it. So as difficult as some of these sale programs will be, our duty is to ensure that at the end of the day we deliver value. And we mean well. And Nigerians will please trust us. Give us a chance. You'll be surprised what will become of your PMS pricing over the next 6 to 8 months. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you also.